What's going on, people? We are back. Welcome to another episode of the Get It Bucket podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron. And as always, I'm joined by my guy, Kev Lucas. What's going on, Kevo?
I'm good, man. NBA finals start today.
Yeah, hyped.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm a little hyped. I ain't gonna lie, but that's a couple hours away. But college basketball stuff has been swinging. We'll get into it. Yesterday was the official deadline, the withdrawal date, if you want to keep your name in the draft or come out and go back to school. So man, it's been a lot of news happening. WNBA's back. I can't complain. Life has been good, man. So how about yourself?
I'm good, man. Can't complain. A lot of stuff going on. We took some time off. There wasn't a lot of stuff to going on, so we didn't really get much to talk about. But the last few days, a lot of stuff has happened. So I figured let's get it cranking and let's get right into it. So a few things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about obviously the NBA withdrawal and guys coming back and which teams benefit the most from that. We're going to talk about the transfer portal, some big names deciding, one of the top prospects, who decommitted from Duke, going to Indiana. We'll get into that and how that affects. Ron Holland made his decision to go to the G League and all that after decommitting from Texas. So a lot of things to talk about. Let's get right into it, Kevin. The NBA withdrawal deadline was yesterday. And as we know, a lot of names, stood in the draft. And to me, there wasn't a lot of names that I was completely shocked. Like even like some people were surprised at some of the bigs, but I was like, it just felt like I just had a gut that they were going to come. But some big names deciding to come back to college basketball, and just the list of some names. And this is based off ESPN's rankings on where they had him in the draft. So Dylan Mitchell returning, which I told you before we start. I just found out literally as I'm writing notes, and I was watching a show, one of the Locked On shows, and they were talking about withdrawals and returners, and they had mentioned. I was like, oh, I didn't even see that. So Dylan Mitchell, who got some buzz and all that during the NBA Combine and all the pro day, looked good and all that, but decided to come back, and it will be going back to Texas for his sophomore season. He's a name that we could see definitely rise for next year and all that. Reese Beekman, UVA's coming back. Zach Edey, I actually thought he was going to stay. I felt it. I felt, there was just a feeling. I thought he would stay and all that, but maybe second round money compared to the bag he gonna get at Purdue, it's hard to pass that up, and maybe he can bump his name. Dan Bowman from UCLA coming back. Guy that a lot of crazy athletic ability, crazy potential. It's a name that you heard maybe late first, second round. He decided to come back, so. Big addition for UCLA. Ron Holmes, a name early in the season that was kind of like a first round lock, maybe lotto lock, kind of up and down, and you didn't hear much in the combine, and he decides to come back. And all the Coleman Hawkins and Terrence Shannon coming back, which is big for the Illini. They're probably going to be all Big Ten first team selections, preseason All-Americans, all that, so Illinois could be one of those teams we might be talking about, a lot going next year. Judah Mintz coming back to Syracuse. You heard some buzz that, maybe late first, second round range, but, with the new coach in Syracuse and a new change of, philosophy, maybe he could bump his name. Dylan Jones, Weber State, his name was heating up. He had a good performance. Jalen Bridges, Baylor, Desire Jordan James in Tennessee. Arthur Kaluma coming back. Trey Alexander, right? He's coming back too, but he's staying, right? He's staying at Creighton, and Kaluma's in the transfer portal. A couple of teams, a lot of teams are going to be interested in all of them and all that. But those are just some of the big names that are returning to college basketball. So, Kev, are there any surprises in that list for you that you thought maybe were going to stay in the draft that are coming back to college basketball?
Definitely Terrence Shannon, just because, and I'll say Coleman Hawkins too. I'm glad they're coming back because that's going to make the Big Ten better as a whole. They still need a true point guard to help them out and take that pressure off of them, but that roster looks really good outside of that. But the reason I say that though is because Terrence Shannon Jr. has literally been on NBA draft boards since his freshman year.
For a minute.
And I understand it. Like next year's class, luckily, is not going to be as deep, so it's going to be opportunity to be a guaranteed first round pick, and that's probably what he was looking for. Because as of right now, he was probably going to be
a
late
second
first
round,
early, second round.
Yeah.
So I get it. I'm not mad at it. Edie, I didn't see him staying, man. I honestly didn't, just because that's what Purdue guys do. They don't like to lead. Like Matt Penner's kind of like Izzo, where we just somehow know how to keep our guys in school. Like Miles Bridges should have never came back for his second year. I know Jaren Jackson Jr. was very, very close to coming back for his second year, but I knew Edie was going to come back. The one I will say is Naquan Tomlin out of Kansas State. I know he was getting a lot of buzz throughout the course of the season, and I really didn't hear about him too much during the combine stuff. I didn't really see how he tested or anything like that. I don't really keep up with the combine, to be honest. I'm kind of like Kyle Kuzma, where I think certain things matter, but we put too much stock into a whole bunch of little things, like KD not being able to bench press a whole bunch of weight really obviously never mattered in the
that was one of the craziest things. Oh, and people were like, man, he's not gonna be able to withstand the physicality of the league. And what is he, like, top 15 in scoring? He's probably gonna be top 5 by the end of his career. And an MVP, 2-time champ. So like there's some things that like, and I mean, we see it a lot during, on Twitter especially, and I try not to fall into it, but like you're trying to get information on guys, and you're just like, like a guy that did nothing in college, and then suddenly they're hooping. It's like, all right, how do we figure this out and all that, and just trying to figure out, all right, but like, is this guy's gonna stay? Is he going? Like, is it guaranteed top 40 and all that? So this is a lot of stuff to try to figure out in this process.
Yeah, and that's why I respect the Nuggets GM Calvin Booth, because he came out and said when they drafted Peyton Watson that he really didn't put too much stock into his UCLA tape, and he literally just looked at his high school tape. And you have to, because as crazy as it sounds, as much as we love college basketball, if I'm being honest, high school basketball translates better to the NBA than college basketball does.
I tweeted that.
Yeah, college basketball is a completely different game. That's what people have to understand. It's nowhere near the NBA. NBA is clearly a better style of play and all that. And I love college basketball, so I'm not here to ridicule or knock it, but it's just two different things. So people have to be very picky and choosy and know what you're looking at to fully understand. But
100%.
With them names, Trey Alexander definitely surprised me. I don't want to keep talking about Creighton too much, because we done gave Creighton so much love. It's probably time at this point.
We gave him too much flowers, I think.
But,
too much.
Man, I mean, I love Trey, bro. Like, I'm glad that he'll be back for, I believe, what'll be his junior year, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to be a movie for them. If you're Creighton, you should be excited. Obviously, I know you lose Nemhard, you lose Kaluma to the portal, but getting him back, I mean, just off the fact that you got him, you got Kalkbrenner, you're going to bring back Mason Miller. You brought in Steven Ashworth from Utah State. You got a couple other guys. Like, they should be a top 5 team in the Big East, no doubt. But for the most part, that's really it. I mean, Deron Holmes, another one. Like, Dayton just had a bad year because they had injuries, and that kind of set their season back. So he really didn't get to fully star the way that he probably wanted to. Reese Beekman, another one. Like, he's an NBA player to me. I don't know if he was going to go first round. He probably would have went second, but to me, he's an NBA guard. Like, it's no doubt about it in my mind. If you're Tony Bennett, you should be ecstatic, because that's a big boost to your roster. But, I mean, to me, he would have been for sure.
And they needed too, UVA.
Oh, yeah. That roster.
They needed.
I look at that roster. They got a couple players, but it's looking very meh. But getting him back is a huge boost. And the last one is, as you said, Judah Mintz. Like, for an entire portion of last season, everybody was saying that he was like damn near a guaranteed lottery pick for the most part. Like, he was back-end lottery for at least the entire season. And I'm not a big Judah fan personally. He's a good player. I don't want to take anything from him. I love watching him play with Dariq Whitehead and Team Durant a couple years ago on the EYBL, but that one kind of surprised me. For Adrian Autry, bringing him back with JJ Starling in your first year, like, that's a hell of a duo right there. And on top of that, they got a couple other guys coming in too. So, I mean, those were really the major names in my opinion. You hit on them, and good for them, man. And that's why, like we said before, like, NIL is having a huge impact on the game right now, man. So shout out to NIL.
100%. Yeah, like we said, like we talked about before the show, like, there's a lot of people who have crapped on NIL and how it's ruining the game. Yeah, we're seeing a bunch of star power coming back to college basketball that probably wouldn't have come back any other year. if there was no NIL, right? They would have just put their name in the draft and just, go for it. We're seeing big names, Hunter Dickinson, and all these, who's homie from North Carolina's coming back, Armando Baycott coming back, all these big time names coming back, and with Zach Edey coming back, got star power, and just that the storyline, can they pull off like a UVA and lose after losing to a 16, come back and all that. So there's going to be a lot of star power and all that. So a lot of people hating on that. We'll dive into a different show, but they might have to, obviously the things that need to be a little tinkered.
For sure.
But this doesn't, without NIL, this doesn't happen. And we could, so, this is a lot of star power. I think this is good for college basketball that we're getting so many big, because all that means is we're going to get so many more teams that are going to be in it. All right. And I'm sure if you're a coach, like, you're ecstatic because it is hard to rebuild a team, especially for like the big, Duke, Kentucky. And we get on Calipari a lot, but it's like, how hard it is to coach a different team every year. And people want, he's only won one. And I don't get front. I used to be that person that say that. But as I learn more about the game, I was like, that's hard to do. Why aren't we doing the national championship? We know that, right? Like, it's hard to win a national championship, but it's even harder to do that when you have a new roster every year. This is why we see the teams that are in the Final Four. What are they based off, right? Team guys who've been there 2, 3, 4 years, and they get a couple guys who were experienced out of the portal and all that, So now we're gonna see more of that. So all that means is we're not gonna be like, who's on that team and all that, We're gonna be like, oh, yeah, we got this guy, and you guys, not that you were afraid that you guys are gonna be going to the league on Michigan State, but you got guys officially coming back. So, and with a loaded team, that makes you feel good with going into next year. I know I feel really good about my squad going into next season with the guys returning, and then all the influx of freshmen and all that. I'm like, oh. We something special might be going on Durham in just year 2 of Shire, so I think this is good and all that. And for college basketball, and I'm excited, not just as a fan of respect. I think we're excited because we're going to see a lot better college basketball, next season for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it in my mind, man. I'm happy because, first of all, these guys are getting paid. Like I'll never knock anybody getting paid. So even if you come back to school, like, it's an opportunity for you to get bread. And that's, at the end of the day, I'm not going to say that's all that matters, but if you get a chance to provide for your family, man, do that regardless. And your time going to come. That's one thing we got to appreciate about the NBA too, is that they're drafting. Guys are getting drafted that aren't just one and dones like that anymore. Like 3-year guys are getting drafted. 4-year guys are getting drafted. So again, as I always say, just run your race at your own pace and everything's going to work out just fine for you.
Exactly. Like you said, run your race. Everyone's development is different, right? Just like for John Morant, for instance, as a freshman, let's say he decided to come out. You might have said, oh, that kid's athletic, but he maybe go end of the first round, second round, simply off of athletic ability.
Mm-hmm.
Takes that jump in year 2 and is the number 2 pick. And there's an all, obviously, whatever happened off, that's whatever. But we're just, just an example of like, he took his own, path and all that. There's some guys take, a little bit longer, and that's why, like, you're like Dylan Mitchell, like you were projected to be a top pick. Julian Phillips, all these kids that were high, top 5-star recruits. Simply because your freshman year didn't go the way you wanted to. Guess what? A lot of freshmen, we could go through the list of the best NBA players in the last how many years that didn't do nothing year. I mean, Tim Duncan was the number 1 pick and went to college for 4 years. He probably could have been number 1 pick, but he just said, you know what? I ain't feeling it. I'm going to continue to develop. And then when I get to the league, I don't really have to take that development. I don't have to wait 3 years to pop, and then I get traded, after year 2 because I haven't developed. And then you're just bouncing around and you're out of the league at 24.
Yeah.
Take the steps necessary. Hey, everyone's road's different. Hey, and not everybody's going to be Zion and be, a highlight reel than number one pick. Everybody's path's different, and we're seeing that with this. And like I said, NIL provides that because it's like, you know what, I am going to put my name in the draft. I'm going to take that chance. I'm going to get some feedback. If I hear I'm a first round pick, then hey, I might have to go. If you're a first round pick, I feel like if you're going to be in that first round pick, and I feel like a lot of these guys know for the most, and listen, sometimes doesn't happen, but I feel like you're going to be that. And take the chance. You hear what you need to get better, and if you're hearing that you're going to be a second round or undrafted, then you're like, all right, pull my name out, go back to college, go get me a bag, get better, and then go be a first round pick, especially knowing that the draft next year might not be as deep as this year, because this year's draft there's going to be 20 guys that might not get drafted that are probably draftable players.
Yeah,
I agree. And so, but just take your path and on. We talked about that religiously on the show, like just develop, and then we're going to see that with Bronny, right? People are going to expect his first game. Boy's going to get criticized like crazy and all that. So everyone's path's different and all that. So, but a lot of great talent coming back. So the next thing is give me some winners, teams that won, and maybe a team or two that you felt like, kind of took a hit with the news of the guys coming back.
Teams that won, I mean, obviously Purdue. I'll just start in Big Ten country real quick. Purdue, Illinois definitely won.
Illinois won big time.
Getting those guys back. Florida Atlantic. They got both Darnell Davis and Elijah Martin. I'll be honest.
They got everyone back, right? Their whole starting five is back?
Whole squad is back. They didn't lose a single player to the transfer portal or the NBA draft. So they're easily by far one of the biggest winners. We mentioned Syracuse. Honestly, I think the biggest winner of the day was Villanova, man. Kyle Neptune and his staff, they did a great job of retaining talent. They got in Hakeem Hart from Maryland. They got Tyler Burton from Richmond. They got Lance Ware from Kentucky. They brought in a whole.
Oh, right. They got Lance Ware. Yeah, I just saw that.
DJ Bamba from Washington State. They bring back Justin Moore, Mark Armstrong, Eric Dixon. To me, they should be a top 2 or 3 team in the Big East. And they're going to be squatted up. I know last year was kind of rough dealing with injuries to Cam Whitmore and Justin Moore, but they're going to be healthy this year. They're going to have a point guard this year. And, of course, they're going to have revenge on their minds for not making the tournament last year. You know what I'm saying? After coming off a Final Four the year prior. So, Villanova, man, easily a big winner. I say one of the biggest losers, I don't think that they took a huge blow, but this is just an assumption because Julian Phillips stayed in the draft, which was kind of a surprise to me because I thought he was more so leaning coming back to school. And because he's so talented, I definitely would have thought he would be a guaranteed lottery pick next year.
Mm-hmm.
But presuming he was going to come back to school, I honestly thought Auburn would have gotten him. And Auburn kind of took a hit because they lost Johan Traore. They lost Chance Westry, of course, went to Syracuse as well. So that's a tough loss. But another biggest loser, probably the biggest loser, hate to say it, but the Kentucky Wildcats. You lose Oscar Tshiebwe. You already knew Casey Moss was going to be a lottery pick more than likely. But Chris Livingston, losing him, they needed him because they needed that leader, that veteran that's been there through the fire. And of course, he struggled a little bit this year trying to find his niche, trying to find his role.
Yeah, 100%.
He wanted to play more on the wing, but Cal was trying to play him at the 3-4, and they needed him, man. Because when you look at it right now, their roster, they're gonna go hard and heavy after Arthur Kaluma, but their roster, it's all the freshmen, and
it's
we
babies.
Know exactly. They haven't been through the fire. They're gonna have to be learning on the fly more than probably any one of Cal's classes have ever had to do, arguably, right? So that's another tough loss. And I'm gonna just stay in SEC country. Alabama's another one because as talented as they're gonna be, obviously Brandon Miller, we know what he is. Obviously Noah Clowney, lottery picks, right? Nothing, you can't do anything about that. If they're lottery picks, you got to let them go. Losing Charles Bediako stings. That stings because he was arguably one of their most important players last year at the center spot, did all the dirty work, good rim protector, rebounded his butt off, did all the things needed to do to win basketball games for what he does and brings them. And they don't really have a guy that could replicate that because he's been there, done that. I think that was like last year was either his second or third season there.
Yeah,
that's hard to get back. Like the guard play is good. You get back Javon Quinley, you got Mark
Sears. Sears and Quinley are back.
I'm not worried about that, but to lose a big like that, I know Noah Pringle's down there too, but that's a tough loss. So I'll probably say those are the main ones. And then another SEC school to finish off, Missouri. Kobe Brown, he's going to get drafted. I'm not worried about that, but
yeah, he's definitely drafted.
He was one of those guys I was like on the fence 50-50, and he was their best player.
I feel like his name is definitely get a lot of buzz rising, you know.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think he's definitely, yeah. I think from what I heard, again, I don't pay too much attention to the combine, but from what people were saying, he was doing, and teams were loving him in his interviews and the workouts he was having.
Yeah.
Good for him. But if you're Dennis Gates, I mean, you're already losing a lot of talent just because you had a whole bunch of seniors last year. And now, you know, you got some good transfers. You got Caleb Grill from Iowa State. You got Tamar Bates from Indiana. So they're not going to be as bad. But if they would have had Kobe Brown in the mix, like any team in the country wants to bring back their best player, right? So,
of course,
lose him, that's kind of tough. But those are probably the biggest ones. Kentucky, by far more than any one of those other schools. I think Auburn should be fine. Missouri, I have faith in Dennis Gates to figure it out. But Kentucky, man, that losing Chris Livingston is a huge blow. And it's a chance that Antonio Reeves doesn't come back. So
that's what I'm saying. So I mean, and that's another name, and we don't know what he's going to do. But losing Oscar Tshiebwe is tough. You know, because a lot of people were saying like with the NIL he potentially could get, you know, and you know, kind of like, you know, we know he's going to be a you know, end of the second round type player, undrafted guy, you know, that you know, they needed him, especially with the inexperience of this team. But you know, it kind of felt like, you know, he was just ready for that, and you know, maybe he got a, you know, guarantee that he gonna get drafted, and that's good enough for him. And whatever money they were throwing at him, he was like, whatever, let me just take this next route and all that, because maybe his stock won't be as high next year and all that, you know. So, but yeah, Kentucky definitely, like I said, FAU bringing back, I think, their whole starting five. So, you know, after, you know, Final Four team bringing back your whole starting lineup, that's pretty good. That's pretty good and all that. But yeah, Purdue getting back Zach Edey is huge. He'll probably be the player of the year front runner again and all that. Creighton bringing back some guys. You know, UConn losing a bunch of guys, but that could be beneficial for Donovan Klingel. He might, you know, because I saw some people saying maybe, you know, they took a hit and all that, you know, Andre Jackson going, you know, Jordan Hawkins and all that. You know, Sonogo is keeping his name because he was a potential name that, you know, could come back with the NIL. He could probably get the bag and all that. But just the Newton's coming back, you know, they got Caravan. But Klingman is the one is like, you might get yourself a superstar next year. So, yes, losing Sonogo and Andre Jackson stings because they're big pieces, but UConn, you know, and obviously Jordan Hawkins because of his scoring, but Klingman could be, you know, someone that we're talking about being a player of the year, potential type player, you know. So, yeah, Illinois winner big time. You know, they had a pretty rough season last year, you know, up and down, the whole Sky Clark situation, you know, coach, you know, players not getting along with coaches and all that. And to get back, not just two solid, like these are all American type players. So, you know, definitely a big win. You know, if you're in the Big Ten right now, you know, definitely should be one of the better conferences next year in college basketball for sure. So a lot of big names coming back. Like I said, it's going to just benefit college basketball big time. But let's get into some other big news. Caleb Love. You know, his name's been, you know, we've heard a lot of Caleb Love. He's going here, he's going there. You know, a lot of uncertainty. Thought he was a Wolverine. Decided to decommit there after putting his name in the transporter from UNC. Picked a school. He is a Arizona Wildcat. He chose Arizona. Why do you think he chose Arizona, and how do you like the fit for him in Arizona?
If I'm just being honest with y'all, I'm not a pocket watcher myself, but definitely NIL.
Had to be because I heard Michigan. If they don't get the like we think
No.
Michigan because it's a star-studded because of the name, right? But it's like even the football team, their NIL is kind of not as so like they're not in they don't have the NIL that people think, So maybe that was the thing. And Arizona, I think has some deep pockets, so that kind of probably I would assume why was he decided to decommit from Michigan and go to Zona.
Yeah, so the fit, it's not that bad just because you got to think, right? This is the same team that literally their point guard last year was Kurt Kriisa. So, with all due respect, both their shot selections are kind of questionable. If Tommy Lloyd could just tame Caleb Love a little bit, he'll be fine, right? Because you're going to be playing against, or you're going to be playing with, shall I say, a whole bunch of talented guards. Like Kylan Boswell is destined to break out as a sophomore. Jaden Bradley, same thing. I'm a big fan of Jaden Bradley. So that guard play out there, to me, should easily be the best backcourt in the Pac-12. You bring in Kashad Johnson from San Diego State. Of course, they just went to the national championship. He's a winner. He's had all the experience in the world. Shout out to the city, the town, Oakland, California, where he's from. Of course, you bring back Umar Ballo. You got a couple other guys there. You bring back Pele Larson. Arizona, to me, they should clearly be the front runner to win the Pac-12 next year. And I definitely think they could go on a run to make the Final Four, maybe even a national championship. But for Caleb, it's all about just settling in, learning when to take the right shots at the right time, not forcing shots, not feeling like every time you come down the floor, you got to put up a shot. Like just being committed to playing team basketball. That's all it comes down to.
Him and Ballo should be like this
exactly.
summer. They should be like at the hip, like picking like that should be your best friend this offseason if you're Caleb Love.
And so I'm not too mad at it. Honestly, I think the fit, just because coaching-wise, I think the fit works out. Again, Tommy Lloyd is going to give you freedom. Their offense is kind of like Gonzaga's. It's that ball screen, continuity, free flow, make the right decision at the right time type of offense. So Caleb just has to be himself and understand that, okay, I'm playing for a team now that has major aspirations like Carolina did, but I think their expectations were a little bit too drastic for a second-year head coach, in my opinion. But Tommy Lloyd going into year 3, big expectations too, but not as big. Again, you're in the Pac-12. You're not going to be seeing the Pac-12. Actually, I will say this. The Pac-12 was a major winner yesterday, which is crazy because just last week.
Tristan Da Silva's coming back to Colorado.
They got a squad. UCLA, of course, gets a dem bona, but they added some overseas players that are good. They got a transfer from Utah. USC, we talked about the last episode. So the Pac-12 actually, it don't look that bad. We'll see what Oregon is. They're kind of a question mark, but Pac-12 don't look that bad. So for Arizona,
forgot Stojakovic's kid. That's gonna be fun to see how he develops.
So hey man, shout out to the Pac-12. I know it's the last year of it being the Pac-12 with USC and UCLA leaving after next year, but I mean I like what it looks like now because just last week it looked disgusting. But for Arizona, they're gonna have a squad. We play them. I'm gonna be at that game. I believe it's Thanksgiving Day. We play them in Palm Springs. I cannot wait for that. That's gonna be a hell of a matchup. So I'm excited for that. But Arizona, man, I'm not mad at it. Honestly, Caleb Love, he should be. If all things work, if he just commits to what Tommy Lloyd has been preaching and plays defense, he'll be fine. Because again, he gives you and allows you the freedom on offense to make mistakes and make good decision making. So Caleb Love, in my opinion, I think he made the right choice. If I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think he made a good decision. I think they're going to figure a way to get him to play under control and all that. And allow him to still be himself too. I think both can be obtainable. So I think that's a good move. And I said him and Ballo should be like this at the hip, with that pick and roll. Him and the big, we saw some of that with Baycott at UNC. Just roll with that, and everything's going to be all right. And he wasn't going to have that at Michigan. So Hunter Dickinson going to Kansas. So maybe if Hunter Dickinson was there. Maybe he just says, I'll rock with him, especially with the things that Dickinson can do. He can shoot the ball and obviously, work in the post and all that. So, I think there's a good move. I think he's going to play control, and we're going to see a different Caleb Love than we saw last year and all that. Maybe more of that national championship game, Caleb Love that beat Duke in the Final Four and all that. So, a good addition. Like I said, Pac-12 is going to be a lot better than expected and all that. But Caleb Love to go in Arizona, I think is a good move and all that. So Also, we'll see how he'll help that team going forward. Okay, so this happened a few weeks ago, but we didn't get to discuss this. But Mackenzie Mbako, we know he decommitted from Duke and all that, but he's decided to go to Indiana, which is massive. Coach Woody, put it in work. Got Ware, from Oregon to go there too. So they got a nice class going. And but Mackenzie Mbako going to Indiana. Did you like the move to Indiana? And how do you see him fitting in Coach Mike Woodson's system?
Man, it's weird because I like it to the extent that the opportunity is there, right?
Yes.
Because Indiana doesn't really they got a couple wings, but for the most part they're losing a good portion. Like I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Miller Kopp is gone. I think they do return Trey Galloway, if I'm not mistaken, but it's opportunity on the wing. The concern is the only point guard that they have on the roster as of right now is Xavier Johnson, who was hurt last year, and of course, they kind of got better when he got hurt because Hood-Schifino got on the ball more, but they don't really have the guard play, and that's my biggest concern. Like, yeah, you get Khalil Ware, who's going to be a player in the Big Ten, but that guard play is always key. Like, they'll be able to survive in the Big Ten. My concern is that you're going to get back to the NCAA tournament, and you're probably not going to make it out the first weekend if the roster stays how it is right now. Yeah. They get Gabe Cupps, who a lot of people know from Ohio, played originally. He was in middle school with Bronny for Strive for Greatness. Shooter, does what he's supposed to do. And they got a couple other guys. I like Ja'Kai Newton, too, out of Atlanta. He's going to be a player probably year 2. Year 1, he'll probably just try and figure it out, find his niche and things like that. But overall, I'm not really mad at it. I know they got Anthony Walker as well from Miami. He was a backup, power forward last year for them. That's a good addition. They also got Peyton Sparks, too. So Mike Woodson is cooking a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I'm rooting for him. I really am rooting for that dude. Like, I'm not a big Indiana fan. I know that's your guy from the Knicks, but I'm rooting for him because I want to see him do good. I don't know if I want to see Indiana get back to what they were under Bob Knight per se, but obviously that's drastic. But I'm rooting for them. So I just think they need a guard. But to me, I was kind of iffy on it just because I feel like if he went to Kansas, which was his other top option, he wouldn't have to be necessarily a star. I think Indiana fans are thinking he's going to walk in and be a star. Just like if he went to Duke, he could just go in and just play a specific role and be fine, right? You'll be a first-round pick if you just play your role. But at Indiana, they're going to ask him to be like, we need you to get us like 14 a game off the rip. So that'd be my only concern. But, hey, I mean, if he's looking at his opportunity, then all the power to him. So we'll see how it plays out.
No, yeah. Definitely it's an opportunity for him to, like I said, maybe be the guy there. So you could look at it that way, but like you said, sometimes that could backfire. Just because you're the guy, and now you're shooting 39, 49, 40%, and now people are just gonna nick and pick your game more. Where if you're going to a team that's star-studded, they won't nick and pick at you as much, because that you're a part of a team that you're not getting the look. So I root for him. Like I said, Mike Woodson's my guy. He was part of the Knicks tape era, helped launch that, kind of one of the big, kind of changed how basketball is played, not the reason, but like, the Knicks shooting three, he's a big part of that, transition in basketball and all that, especially in the NBA. So I root for him, because, it took him, when he got fired, he didn't get a job, and he kind of had to go to college, and it was kind of like a weird fit because you don't see a lot of older guys, I think he's in the 60s, get their first college, they're getting back to being a head coach in college and then at a big time school like Indiana, like as far as name wise and all that. And he's done a pretty solid job so far, like, potentially 2 first-round picks in this upcoming draft and all that. I said, they got to figure some stuff out at the point, but, for Mackenzie, kid out of Jersey, Jersey talent, we're gonna talk about another Jersey kid soon, but big move for Indiana. I think they definitely gonna benefit from that, and he I'm rooting for him too. There's a lot of and I don't know if you get this from like your baseball, like you see a player that committed and then they did commit and you don't root it for that kid, I'm not that type of person. Oh, you didn't come to it stings, but like circumstances are circumstances. It's like I still root for M'Baku to do good things in college, and hopefully he kills it. And he's we're talking about him a lot next season and all that. But let's get into next. Ron Holland, one of the big recruits last coming into this year, like top 5, top 10 recruit and all that. Was going to Texas. Obviously, a lot of stuff changed in Texas with Chris Beard's firing. He decommits from Texas. We had some list of names. They may play go in college, but then we heard the G League route, and that started gaining buzz. And he officially announced that he's going to join Buzelis, who's a potential top 3 pick next season at the G League next season. So Ron Holland is going to play for the G League Ignite. How do you like that fit for him?
I'm not mad at it. Kind of like Mackenzie and Bako, the opportunity is going to present itself, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to already be pretty much in the NBA. You're going to be learning from former, current, and past pros, or future pros, shall I say? Mm-hmm. And you're going to be in the NBA, pretty much playing the NBA style of play a year before everybody else is. So I'm all for it. Me personally, being the college basketball fan that I am, I would have loved to have seen him how it would have played out at Arkansas. So I think that's where he would have went if he went to college. But I like it. Matas is going to be the number 1 option, of course, which is fine. Buzelis is a hell of a player, like you said. There's a chance he could go number 1 next year for all we know. We'll see. But for Ron, he's one of the most accomplished high school basketball players in the state of Texas ever. 6'8", super lanky. He's more of a power forward in a small forward's body, but once he figures out his niche, he'll be fine. But his 3-point shot has come a long way. He plays hard as I don't know what. He gets up and down the floor. He rebounds. He defends a whole bunch of different positions. So I like it for him, man. Again, you get a head start compared to your peers playing in the NBA game, and I think that'll benefit him because he honestly needs that. And so most times I kind of knock it just because it feels like if you're not the star player, then you don't really need to do that. But for him, just learning how to be a role player, learning how to figure out whatever it needs for you to be a good NBA player, to figure out what your responsibilities are, all the power to him. So I'm rooting for Ron Holland. I think this is a great move. He's going to have all the right resources to thrive and bloom. And I'm not mad at it, man. I truly am. I think this was the right decision for him and his family. So congrats to them.
100%. I think this is a really good move. I think he's someone that we might be seeing in the top 3 next year. I think he's that talented and all that. So we could definitely see his name being called. Him and Buzelis should be a nice, and then add some, because they're right at the moment it was, there's some other guys in the G League, but Buzelis was probably the biggest name. Now you add some more star power to that, and they might not get the coverage that maybe like Scoot got, and
Jalen Green,
but Jalen Green and all that. But there's a name that you need to be watching out next season in the G League, and there's but there's also could be the worry of, because college and, you're going to be on CBS and all that, just that exposure and all that. And, so but if your focus is on the league and all, and that's all you care about, then I respect the decision and hope for the best. He's a hooper. He's super talented, super gifted. Like I said, wouldn't be surprised. We're talking about him, a draft as a top 5, top 3 pick because he's that special. So, but we've been fun to see him at Texas or wherever he went. Arkansas too. Arkansas could have definitely used that. Because Jordan Walsh decided, and I think Jordan Walsh maybe one of the biggest beneficiaries of putting his name in, because we thought maybe he'd be like a second round. I think he's gonna get like a back end first round. I think people are gonna buy some of the shooting, but definitely could have used him with the loss of and now they're gonna lose potentially 4 guys drafted and all that. But definitely a good move for him and all that. But we got a reclassification, and I on top of this, I want to get your thoughts on reclassifications because I heard a couple people talk about this and they're not big fans of players reclassifying and all that. And so I want to get your thoughts after this. But Elie Cadeau, like I said, a hooper from Jersey. I mentioned that's the kid outside, with Jersey hooper. Jersey hooper, man. New York's on the getting back, but Jersey, man, it's just like the talent. I mean, it's crazy how good Jersey has just dominated New York since like the turn of the century. It's crazy, but that's for a whole nother show. I don't need. We want to come up the last few years, but Jersey still overtaking us as far as hoop. But Ellie Cadeau is reclassifying. He's going to UNC. So first, tell me how much of a win this is for North Carolina, and then follow up with how do you feel about kids reclassifying? So
I've been a fan of Elliott. The first time I watched him was actually last year on the EYBL. He was playing for NH Lightning. Of course, his teammate is Tahad Pettiford, who's going to Auburn next year. He's going to be a hell of a player too from Jersey. I believe he goes to Hudson Catholic, if I'm not mistaken, where Javon Quinley went. But North Carolina needed this, if I'm being honest with you, just because, they're going to have a lot of guard play between RJ Davis. They're going to bring in Simeon Wilcher. They're going to bring back Seth Trimble, who barely played last year, but will be better as a sophomore. To get another true point guard is big for them. You can never have enough point guards because, as we always say, point guards win games in March. And especially for UNC, they have a great history of point guards. And Elliott is kind of undersized. I don't know if he's even 6 feet, if I'm going to be honest with you guys, but he's explosive. He's crazy off the bounce, hell of a passer, hell of a playmaker, can get up and dunk on you at times, can shoot the ball, just sees the game at an entirely different level than his peers. And that's a good pickup for Hubert. And I'm going to say this, getting into the reclass part of it, because this is one of those instances where this is how a lot of reclasses play out, right? You go back, you look at Devin Askew, you look at a couple other guys. A lot of these dudes, Marvin Bagley from Duke is a great one. A lot of these dudes are literally just going back to the actual class that they're supposed to be in, that they were originally in. Because let's be honest, some of these guys were holdbacks when they were kids, right? And I understand it to a certain point, but at the same time, if your ultimate goal is the NBA, you're gonna play against older dudes, so you might as well just get used to it, right? But for me, that's what this case is. I looked it up. He's older than Jeremy Fears by 6 months, so he's really supposed to be in this grade. He's supposed to be a freshman in college, so it makes sense. Again, this is big for Hubert and them, but when it comes to reclass, I think it has the connotation that it can be a negative thing at times, which I understand, because some kids, they go and they completely just flop. Like I just mentioned, Devin Askew. I hate that it happened like that, but he's just an example, right? Marvin Bagley was another one, but Marvin Bagley was the same age as me, or is the same age as me. He's literally only a month younger, so he was supposed to be in that class with Trayvon Duval and all them guys, right? So he just went back to his normal grade. But it doesn't always work out like that. Some guys just completely fall off the map. And so, like I said to start off this episode, run your own race at your pace. You don't got to skip steps. You don't got to get held back. You don't got to advance. In certain situations, I can understand it. They're not all the same, but for the most part, they can be. But to me, it's just bro, again, basically, if you're in college, you're going to be playing against dudes that are 5 years older than you. If you're in the NBA, you're going to be playing against dudes that are a decade older than you. So you might as well just get used to it. It's no use to running, because if you run, by the time you get to the NBA, it's only going to be a negative against you, right? So to me,
there's dudes in the NBA that are 19 years old, 19, and they're playing against LeBron James, who's 38 years old. Literally a 20-year difference.
I'm looking at Scoot Henderson. He joined the G League, if I'm not mistaken, 17? Yeah. That's going to pay off for him in the long run. Jalen Green, same thing, and Ron Holland too, because they decided to go to the G League. They're playing against older dudes earlier. They're understanding the NBA physicality from that standpoint, and it is progressing their progress, right? So it just depends on the case, right? I got the perfect example right now, actually. It's this kid out there right now. His name is Isaiah Miranda. He was a top player, I believe, in the class of 2023. But this year, for some reason, he decided in the middle of his high school season, he was out here in LA at Southern California Academy. In the middle of their season, he decides to reclass, and he goes to NC State, right? Doesn't play at all because Kevin Keith is just not going for that, just like most college coaches aren't going for that. He doesn't play at all. He puts his name into the NBA draft. He gets a little bit of buzz, but I think he's actually coming back. I'm about to look it up right now, but right now he's in the transfer portal, if I'm not mistaken. So with that, he's going to have to find another home for no reason, just because he wanted to rush the process. You went to NC State for nothing. Why did you went to NC State for nothing? So he actually did come out of the draft. He's not in there anymore. He has a visit set up to Oklahoma State. And I'm looking at that Oklahoma State just lost a lot of talent.
Yeah,
I like Mike Boynton. He's a good coach, but he also has visits set up to Alabama, DePaul, and Ole Miss. Listen, I don't know the people that are in Isaiah Miranda's camp. I don't know the people around him. I don't know if they're going to hear this, but it was no point in rushing his process. He was a senior in high school. He was going to have a whole bunch of options on the table. But now you rushed it. Now he has to transfer. Now he's in the portal. Now he has to do his recruitment all over again. And who's to say that you guys picked the right school again, right? So,
and then you might get that opportunity to get into, it might just keep falling and falling again, because we see that a bunch
all
of
the
times,
time.
right? So, this is why it's very important. This is why, like, if you get that opportunity to go to transport, the first time, we all make mistakes, picking schools. I know when I went to college, when I first went to college, I picked the wrong school and that messed me up. I wound up going to the junior college, and that's why I've always appreciated kids who and try to help kids that went through that road, because even though I wasn't playing, college basketball and all that, like, I went through that road just in life, going to a college, and then that while working out, going to junior college route, and just seeing the difference and how that could affect the kid that's going. And I used to talk to kids on the time when I used to go to junior college, like how that affect, like, the couple kids go to Syracuse, or they went to these schools, that school, Ohio State, and now they're at some JUCO in New York City, and they're doing their own traveling, taking the subway. They're like, yo, what is this? They looking at the rats like, yo, this ain't what, it's crazy. But it can either humble you or just keep knocking you down and all that. Then you see some kids go back, to play it. But it's very important, especially if you got that a second opportunity, and you're not missing out on it here like you used to. You got to figure it out, and that's why it's important to have a good camp around you that's going to look out for you. Because if you don't, then those dreams to go to the NBA just keeps deep, because now you got to go overseas, and that's a hard that's not, that could humble you too. I've talked to plenty of hoopers, NBA players, college players that had to go there, and that can take you down too. So, it's just crazy how many times we see that. We see these 5 stars and that, and now then how many times have you gone to 24/7 or on 3 and just look back from 2018, 2019, 2020, and you're like, yo, I remember that dude being a killer. What the hell is he? We see it all the time. That's why it's very important, especially if you got that second shot, you get that second opportunity is to make sure you make the right, like, we know how the AAU system works and all that. And then and also the parents, like, everybody wants to rush the process to the league. What's the quickest way I can get to the league? And for some players, it could work. I remember Bryce Harper did that. Bryce left high school like a junior. He was like in the pro, like he went to junior college at like 16, graduated, and got drafted at 17. Everybody was killing him. Now there's rare instances where he's a special talent that works out, but I'm sure there was a lot more people that did that, and we haven't even heard about them because they're just irrelevant now.
Yeah.
So like you said, like, just go, stop, not everything has to get shortcut and try to get there. Like, it's hard to be an NBA. There's only 60 people that get drafted. And we talked about that. Maybe they should add a third round and all, because this is so much talent, but don't rush it. Stop rushing it and all that. It's just.
And what we just said, you can get paid in college now. So
exactly.
you don't got to rush it. Have patience, my people.
Have patience with the money the people are throwing out, all these, you don't need to rush it. Take your time. If it takes you whatever, just take your time. There is no rush anymore. There's no need. Man, if I go to college, man, I can get paid. I'm going to struggle. I got to go, even if I average 5 a game, I got to go pro. I got to figure a way to go pro. Now there's so many avenues. You got the G League, you got OTE. The NBL's throwing out money. There's ways to make money. There's so many avenues that there's no need to rush it. Take your time, and if you're good, they're gonna see you and you're gonna get drafted. Whether you're a soft, they don't care no more. It used to be like a freshman. Hey, some of the players we're gonna see tonight in the NBA Finals. If you're listening to this, tonight NBA Finals on. There's a lot of role guys that were not 5-star players. Undrafted players. Your Miami Heat. How many That's all we hear about. He coaches the
7 of them.
undrafted guys. They got 7 of them. You know, you have one who was a big piece of if you guys get into the finals, and Caleb Martin. You know, so take, you know, everyone's path's different. You know, and you know they'll find you. Trust me. If you have any talent, like we like to say, Caleb Martin, like they found it. They finally, you know, they find, you know, the Gabe Vinces, the Max Struces. What was Max Struess at the Paul? You know, like they'll find you. And if you get the right team that knows how to use you, then you will get paid. Like with the Lakers and Austin Reeves, right? He was undrafted, right? He's about to get a 9-figure deal. 9 figures. There's some guys in the first round that were in the first round that might not even get, you know, their 5th-year option or 4th-year option. So just trust the process. I know that's like a routine word and all. We hear that obviously constantly in the NBA, but like you just have to trust the process. You trust it, yeah. To stay the course and all that. No need to rush it. No need to not finish high school. Who was the kid that didn't do that? What was the old boy's name? He did that a few years back, and he's irrelevant now. But he did the same thing. He didn't go finish his senior year of high school. Is gonna bother me because I just talked about this with someone.
He went to college?
No. He was a top recruit though, but he didn't even go to one of going to college. I think he went overseas or something. I forgot. I'm thinking the name after, but you know that was an instance of but obviously different times. You get paid now, so don't rush it and all that. But a lot of stuff happened this week. You know, happy to get back on the show. But Kev, that's another episode of Get a Bucket.
Yes, sir, man. As always, appreciate y'all. Shout out to everybody at Off the Ball for show. Y'all be easy. Y'all keep stacking days. Stay positive. Enjoy the NBA Finals. Enjoy WNBA. Team USA basketball about to come back very soon. Shout out to my guy Jeremy Fears about to compete a little bit later. The NBA draft is later this month as well. So y'all enjoy y'all summer too, man. At that too. It's about to be summertime very soon.
Summertime is about to happen. So a lot of, you know, you're going to see a lot of tournaments, especially in New York City. We got a bunch of tournaments. So, you know, I'm sure you got a bunch of tournaments out there in Cali. Go watch, you know, I know a lot of people just watch the NBA and college, but go out there to these tournaments, see some of the hoopers. You know, a lot of these leagues have, you know, some underrated hoopers, you know, your local, you know, your local state hooper that you're not hearing about. Go there, go see who's out there. Because there's a lot of talent out there, and go see what's going on out there and all that. So I know we got a bunch. I'm going to try to get out there over here locally and all that. I'm sure you're going to be doing the same thing and all that. But go support the podcast, Get a Bucket. Make sure if Apple, give us a 5-star, drop a 5-star rating, give us a comment that helps to boost up the numbers and all that. Spotify, I think they do the same thing as Spotify. I know they change all that stuff, but I think they do the same stuff there now. YouTube, give us a subscription, give us a like, a comment. Let us know how you feel about, you know, guys coming back, the transfer portal, teams that you feel like are going to be, you know, on the up with some of these additions coming back to college basketball. But that's it. That's another episode of Get a Bucket. You know where to follow Kev. Handles right there. Kev Mufasa 7. You can follow me at my handle, Off the Ball Pod. Make sure to go to Off the Ball Net. We got a lot of dope articles being written. I'm not just saying that because it's my network, but we got some legit writers.
Shout out to Nick and Omar, man.
Nick and Omar writing some real bang, especially Omar, man. Athletic, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, whoever. I mean, I hate to lose the man, but y'all need to pick this dude up. I'm sorry. That man be writing. I edit a lot of the stuff. I sometimes it's like, this is a masterpiece. I ain't gonna touch it. Just publish, boom, out. This man, he writes, it's detailed, it's just crisp. It's even if you don't like reading, you're gonna enjoy it. Even Nick too, right? He writes some good articles and all that. You know, those are some heavy hitters we got. You know, Cole does some good work too. He be writing some funny articles too. Sometimes he'll go, you know, he's very involved in baseball stories and all that. So make sure to go to offtheballnetwork.com. Make sure to check out all the dope sponsors we got, especially SeatGeek, you get $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek.com. Make sure to use Off the Ball Network, all caps for that. OTB on network on Twitter. It's follow there. Like I said, follow us. We always talking hoop, on Twitter and all that. So follow us, interact with us and all that. And like I said, support the pod and all that. But Get a Bucket podcast, another episode in the books. That's Kevo. That's Chris. Peace out.